Hey, in this video, we're going to follow up a little bit more on some testing, some examples, and give you a chance to try a few of those things. First, I want to show you some projective testing samples. Here is a drawing by a child. This child was 9 years old, was asked to draw a family, draw the child's family. Now this boy chose to draw, as you can see, there's two figures there. One is his mother, one is his stepfather. What's interesting is the child is missing from this example, from this story. So that might say something. Parents look happy. Again, it's not really clear what it tells you. Projects the child's personality onto their drawing because they just are told to draw a family and nothing more specific and clear. Here's an interesting thing. What color is your car? Or particularly if you've chosen a car color, what color and what does that say about you? This is a fun one. I'm not sure about that, but there's much good research on this one. But we have red. Red is a fire color, hard to ignore, gets a lot of attention. People who drive red cars crave attention and are aggressive and impulsive, according to one source. So take this with a grain of salt, but it's fun to give it a try. Brown. I don't know too many people with brown cars. Brown is often the pick of a cautious, conservative, analytical person. White, frequent choice of the compulsively neat, critical, detail-minded motorist who's cautious and likes white's highly visible, therefore safer factor. Blue. Blue is for consistency, the likely choice of an introvert or maybe an extrovert who likes to be able to count on certain things. Those are some examples there. You might ask what color my car, students always ask, what color is your car? This one I chose, blue. My color is blue. I consider it sort of a fun color, not blue like depressed blue, but sort of a fun one. Here's more, some sentence completion examples from children. My favorite thing to do is basketball. That's how this boy filled in the blank. Next question I asked him, school is, he fills this out with, pretty fun. I like to learn new things. It used to be my worst nightmare. Now I went on with that questioning and the sentence completion, but later on in that same meeting, I asked him a few more questions about what he meant. And then he explained a little bit more. We just had a conversation. So it led to some good counseling beyond the testing that prompted it. He talked about he used to think that it was boring because he already knew a lot of things, but not always too easy these days. Those are some examples there. Now, here's some humorous examples of some things that have happened. I've done testing and counseling for a number of decades. And there's always something that happens. I botch something up, somebody says something amusing. Here's a couple of examples. And we'll be talking in a minute about intelligence and achievement testing. So I had a child giving a test asking a vocabulary word to give a definition for various words. It's one kind of verbal skill. So I'm asking to define the word transparent, like see-through. So what the child says, it's when you transport a parent. And I thought that was sort of amusing. And then there was another question on from a different child, and this was more of a reasoning, common sense, problem-solving type of skill. And this question, this item, asked, why should police wear uniforms? Of course, the typical good answer is to identify themselves as police, different from a normal person. And they said, well, why should police wear uniforms? Because if they didn't, they'd be naked. True, of course. So just quite interesting examples you get sometimes. Now, let's go on to intelligence and achievement testing. Intelligence is various kinds of abilities, and there are different theories about this, and you'll read about initial theory that talked about one kind of intelligence, and then it blossomed a number of years later to there were 3 factors, and more recently Gardner has come up with seven types of intelligence. That's just one sample, how we now look at it as multiple factors. So there really isn't one thing. You can have people talking about IQ scores, but that really is just one facet. We tend to focus more on academic kinds of things like verbal skills and intelligence, writing and reading, which is definitely very helpful in school and in college. But there's other kinds of intelligence: math, music, social skills, visual motor, physical kinds of abilities. So what I'm going to have you do now is something different. Achievement testing measures how much you've learned of a particular skill or subject area, not what your natural ability is in that area. We all have our strengths and weaknesses, but sometimes our reading skills are low and they improve. So I'm going to give you something, and I want you to put down your answers on a write down your answers. You're going to email them to me. You'll see the worksheet. It'll describe that. And it doesn't matter whether you get them right or wrong. I want you to try your best, but your score and points in the class is not based on your performance. But just give it a try. It'll give you a feel for an example of an achievement test. It's a spelling test. And this should be hard. Some of these words, I might even have trouble giving you a sentence, but I'll go through them. You can write them down. And my recommendation would be, even though you do have more time to look them up or to think about it, try to do it quickly. See how well you can do it at the pace that I'm going now. Because again, you're going to be graded mostly by just turning it in. So here's word one: compression. Compression is helpful after an injury. Compression. Number one. Number two, foliage. Trees have foliage. Foliage. Number three, nirvana. Nirvana is a spiritual state and the name of a rock and roll group. Nirvana. 4, Renaissance. Renaissance means rebirth. Renaissance. 5, sultriness. Sultriness may be a quality you would want your date to have. Sultriness. We are on number 6, tuffaceous. Tuffaceous. Dr. Adler has no idea what tuffaceous means. Tuffaceous. 7, inefficient. Inefficient instructors make it hard for students. Inefficient. 8, chasm. Chasm is a space. Chasm. 9, architecture. If you look behind me, you can see a little bit about the architecture of the room and the decor. Architecture. I think we're on number 10, dahlia. Dahlia is a type of flower. Dahlia. It's a festival and can be every year. It's very scenic. 11, lunge. A lunge is a type of physical movement. Lunge. I think we're on number 12, neurological. The patient went to a specialist because the primary care doctor thought there might be a neurological problem. Neurological. 13, promenade. Promenade. Promenade could be considered a walkway, perhaps. Promenade. 14, righteousness. Righteousness is a quality that many people wish to have. Righteousness. 2 more. Stenosis. Stenosis, if I remember correctly, is the thinning of the vertebrae or something inside the vertebrae, from my expert opinion. Sarcastically, he says. And last one, zealous. Zealous is an adjective. Yeah, that was really helpful. Zealous. Okay, there were 16 words there. I'll give you the answers later. Do your best. Send those to me by email. But we have one more achievement test for you to try. And again, just try your best for fun. The answers will be given to you later, or maybe you'll figure them out. But email me within the time limit, or your first responses. Right or wrong, you're going to get credit for it. First one is, these are some algebra questions. So this is math. First one. Okay, in the parentheses, solve. You've got 6 squared minus 4 times 8 divided by 2, all squared. When I'm showing this to you, I'm seeing it backwards, so it's a little tricky to read. Solve for that. So you may want to write that down. Take a few minutes later to solve for that. That's number one. We're going to have 3 math questions for you today. Second one, somewhat of a quadratic formula. X squared minus 5x equals 15. Solve for x. X squared minus, sorry, my bad. I read it wrong. That's 2x in the middle. X squared minus 2x equals 15. Again, I apologize. It's backwards. A quick hint on this one, if you're stuck, is get the 15 over to the other side of the equal sign. So make it all equal to 0 and then factor it, and that'll help you solve for x. One more. Simplify this fraction. So let me turn it around so I can read it to you. 48 times a to the 6th power times b to the 9th power plus 32ab cubed divided by 8ab cubed. So you're not solving for a or b, you're simplifying this, reducing it. Okay, so those are your questions there. Send those to me by email, and we'll see you next time. Bye.